Okay, we'll bring this meeting to order. And first order of business is we have a presentation to make tonight. So if I could have Donald Sanderson from the West Parry Sound Health Center come forward on behalf of the town of Parry Sound and the other participating municipalities. There was a surplus from the snowbirds of $4,407.76, and the gifting was to go to the West Parry Sound Health Center. So we would like to present this check to the West Parry Sound Health Center on behalf of, I guess, the communities of the Parry Sound area that participated in the snowbirds project and day. So,
what an honor. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Let's get some of the council members in here too, please. I think
so just while they're doing that, Lynn Atkinson, the executive director of our foundation, sends her regrets, but this check will be deposited with the foundation and invested wisely for the capital equipment needs of our community. So I thank you very much for that.
Very good. Good.
Short people in front.
Short people.
Get on my chin.
Let's try to hide. Newspaper guy.
He's used to saying, "Watch the birdie."
Pushes his way through the crowd.
Got it?
Perfect.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you,
Okay.
everybody. Congratulations.
Sorry.
Okay. Hmm?
I do have that one.
You have that now. Okay. Let's see here. I'd like to remind everybody that the meeting is being live streamed, and then once after tonight, it will be available on the town's website for anyone to view at any time in the leisure of their own home. Adoption of the agenda. May I have a mover and seconder for the agenda, please? Councillor Keith and Councillor Saunier. Are there any additions or prioritization of the agenda? Sorry, Councillor Keith.
Yes, could we move up 9.2.3, please?
9.2.3.
Yes.
Okay. I'd also like to move up 10.4.1 as well. Okay. Is that, Councillor Keith, the one to do with the right-of-way? Yes. Okay, thank you. Yep. Okay. Are there any further additions or prioritization? No? Okay. The council agenda for October 16th, 2018 be approved as amended. All in favor? That's carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Councillor Horn?
I do. Item 922, which is the land ambulance contract, and my spouse is the CFO, CIO officer of West Parry Sound Health Center, and will be part of those negotiations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mover and seconder for the minutes, please. Councillor Marshall and Councillor McCann. The minutes of the regular council meeting held October 2nd, 2018 be approved as circulated. Any discussion on those minutes? No? All in favor? That's carried. Questions of staff? Councillor Keith, and then Councillor Marshall.
Yes, Mr. Brown, good evening. I was just wondering, how do you feel the progress is going on at the lane there at Gibson Street and Logan's Lane? How's that doing?
Through your worship, you're speaking about the retaining wall that it's basically done. The patching, the paving was completed late last week. And the work is basically done, so there will be a review of it, and then the warranty will start for 1 year. We're quite happy with the work, and it went in quite quickly.
Yes, Councillor Keith.
Just one follow-up to that. We have a warranty for a year, but how long is it anticipated that the blocks will be standing there before repair? Like, are we towards the Roman Empire, or where are we?
Through your worship, these particular blocks are designated to survive a great length of time. That's one of the reasons why we're using them. They're built to last many, many years. I don't really want to quote how many years, but they will be significantly lasting longer than the previous blocks that we removed there.
Okay. Councillor Marshall.
Thank you. A question for Mr. Brown as well. As Ned Stark said, winter is coming, and if you look at the weather forecast, it might be coming a little sooner than we all expected or anticipated. So how are we as far as winter weather ready as far as the town goes with plows, trucks?
Through your worship, thank you for the great news that winter is coming. We actually just received our new sidewalk machine today. So that's in-house right now. There will be some training done, hopefully before the end of this week. We have some of our iron on our plow trucks now and ready to be put on our plow trucks. So if it snowed this week or next week, we're ready to go. There are some things we need to do, like bring in more sand and salt, which is going to be talked about tonight. But I feel quite confident that we're ready to go. I'm very hopeful that there won't be any snow until December the 24th.
We can only wish. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Councillor Saunier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering who the new guy is. The distinct.
He's about to be introduced.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I just mild curiosity.
Well, we can do it now if you want.
Absolutely.
Okay. So sitting to my left is our new CAO, which is Clayton Harris, and we welcome Clayton to the town of Parry Sound and wish him all the best. That's why I had 1041 moved up, because it installs him in that position. Is that what it is? Okay, all right. So, Councillor Borneman.
So I too have a question for Mr. Brown. I see some what appears to be under tarps on Prospect Street. Curbs have been put in. Councillor Marshall mentioned snow. Are we expecting that sidewalks and asphalt will be down on Prospect prior to its arrival, and the work on the easement over towards the laneway to the Coast Guard, where are we with respect to those jobs, Mr. Brown?
Through your worship, the contractor made significant progress today, basically laying all the curb and gutter and I think the sidewalk today on Prospect Street. So a significant amount of work that was done. They're tarped, they're covered, so the heat will retain in there and will dry that much faster. I suspect that by the end of this week, the curb and gutter and sidewalk can be used on that area. Once the tarping is removed, then they can start setting up for asphalt. The plan is, or the hope is, to put the first layer of asphalt down on Prospect Street next week, weather permitting. So things are moving quite well there. It's really beginning to shape up and look like a road again, as opposed to what was there before. With regards to the easement, the work is essentially done in the backyards. There will be some landscaping done before freeze up. They are planning on using a section of it on the Coast Guard end for storage for some of the material for the upcoming Wabick Street work. But everything should be pretty well done, I'm confident, on Prospect Street before the end of the year. It's looking very good.
Yes, Councillor Borneman.
One layer of asphalt and the finish coat next spring as per usual?
Yeah, through your worship, that's the plan, yes. We like to do that just to make sure that, you know, we get a decent winter out of it, and to see if there are any issues and that they can be corrected in the springtime before the second lift goes up.
Okay, good, thank you. Councillor Horn?
Also for Mr. Brown, how did the aged infrastructure repair go on Marion Street?
Through your worship, this was an interesting one. We knew that there was a problem there, and then we had repaired it a couple of times before, but we extended the repair as an emergency repair towards Wood Street. And the contractor found no fewer than 4, I'll say, voids underneath the asphalt. Some of them were as big as this table. That when they found them, you know, there was some significant concern because of the salt trucks, not to mention the vehicles and the regular trucks going around there. So I'm glad that we got there and we did what we did when we did it. We came across a lot of old steel culvert that half of it was basically gone. The top half disappeared because of the age, because of the amount of water that goes through there. Everything's been replaced with plastic. Everything's been backfilled, compacted. I'm confident that the work that's been done will save that road. We've done some preliminary redesign of some of the storm sewer. The contractor did an excellent job. We're hoping to get it paved as early as next week because the salt trucks are starting to run in earnest there. And with gravel, it's just going to rip it up pretty quick. Having said that, I'm confident that the base of the road is in very good shape and that we can rest a little easier that knowing that, you know, some of the infrastructure that's old and damaged has been repaired.
Any further questions? Councillor Borneman?
I think this is more of a statement than a question. Mr. Brown, those repairs, though, were to specific parts of the street. The road itself, the entire street hasn't been replaced. Chances are it's, if one section of it's in need of repair, the rest of it will be soon.
Through your worship, that's correct. But the sections that we've done from Georgina to Wood basically have all been replaced. So with plastic. So the storm sewer there is going to last 50 years or more. So the next person sitting in this chair will probably have to deal with changes to the infrastructure that they have to resolve in that area.
Okay. Any further questions? No? Okay, correspondence, Ms. Boggs.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The first piece of correspondence is from David Pierce. He's the supply chain officer from Stewardship, Ontario. And it's regarding industry funding for the municipal blue blocks recycling for the second quarter of the 2018 program year. So Parry Sound received a check for $13,379.33. And that was circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to the Director of Public Works for follow-up. Second letter is from Hector Liebert. He's the Poppy Chairman at the Royal Canadian Legion. And the letter basically outlines Remembrance Day planning. It was circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to myself for follow-up. The next piece is the AMO Watch File from October 4th. It's a municipal industry news letter circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to myself for inclusion on the e-agenda. And then a FONAM release, media release, Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, and it outlines FONAM's provincial forestry strategy, or their comments on it. That was circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to myself for inclusion on the agenda, and that's it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So we come to our deputations and presentations portion of tonight's meeting, and I'd like to remind deputations here tonight they have a maximum of 10 minutes each, including questions of clarification from council, and deputations are subject to the same rules of conduct as members of council, and that no one shall speak disrespectfully or use offensive words and insulting expressions against any member of council, staff, or another member of the public. And good distance from the microphone is about 1 foot to 1.5 feet. So our first deputation tonight is Amber Gordon, Director of Development, Georgian Bay Forever. Welcome. Oh, there's a, yep.
Thank
Okay.
you. Perfect. Thank you, Mayor McGarvey. I'm David Sweeten, the Executive Director of Georgian Bay Forever, and joining me tonight is Lisa Ertl from the University of Toronto Lab.
Okay.
So,
neither of us are Amber.
yeah,
Obviously.
she's much better looking and smarter than us. So we're filling in tonight, but we did want to come before Council as Georgian Bay Forever and the University of Toronto and give you an update on the microplastics project. First of all, we wanted to thank Council for your support of the project as we began our application for funding. And secondly, we wanted to give you the good news that we have now officially received confirmation from the Environment Canada Eco Action Grant that we have in fact been successful in that grant application. And in addition to that, we've raised 2 other foundation grants for a total so far of about $135,000 towards this 2-year microfibers plastic project, which has enabled us to engage with the University of Toronto, Rokeman Lab, and Lisa's going to talk briefly about that, but our thanks to Council for your support of the project. And secondly, our thanks to Peter and Jamie at the wastewater treatment plant. We were up to have a tour of the facility and just kind of get our heads wrapped around the experimental design there, and we're very graciously stewarded around a nice, clean-smelling facility, actually, that is doing a good job for the community and will be the bulk of the siting of the work that we do here. And I wanted to turn it over to Lisa just to give you a little brief on the project design and some background.
Okay.
Thank you. I wanted to say another thanks to Peter for letting us tour around the plant. I was really excited and very enthusiastic to see everything, and thank you for organizing that. For my PhD dissertation, I'm looking at sources, fate, and effects of microfibers in the environment. And microfibers are a kind of microplastic, so a small piece of plastic that can end up in the environment. I've sampled fish from Georgian Bay from 2 different trophic levels, rainbow smelt and lake trout, and I'm finding this type of plastic pollution in every fish that I have sampled. There are probably many sources of these microfibers, but one known source is from washing our clothing. In our lab, we have done experiments and found that a single garment can release upwards of hundreds of thousands of microplastics every time that garment is washed. And we're also looking at solutions to try to capture those microfibers to keep it from going into the environment. And we find that both in washing machine solutions and devices on the washing machine effluent can capture up to 80% of that microplastic pollution. So we're interested in understanding what it does to wildlife, but also ways to reduce this kind of pollution. And right now, there is a lot of action on this. On microbeads, the Canadian government has already identified microbeads as toxic, and currently I have been part of looking at policy and solutions to reduce microfibers. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Connecticut. They recently passed policy to reduce this type of pollution, and I was there as a scientific advisor to look at what some of the effective solutions are.
Okay. Very good.
So our team is made up of some really high-powered experts, and as we proceed, we'll continue to inform the town about the project and the advances that we're making and be available to answer questions that council may have or provide information on policy guidelines or anything like that. There'll be a pretty good breadth of expertise, and Lisa will actually be the principal investigator on the published scientific paper that will come out of this work, as we described when we first came before council. So the town of Parry Sound is going to be in a published scientific paper on this. And I already have a lot of other municipalities that are saying, can you please keep us informed on what you guys find out up in Parry Sound? So there is some real excitement about this project and the work. So thank you. Thank you again.
Another check mark to be on the map.
Exactly,
There we
yeah.
go. Thank you. So it looks like we've got questions. So Start with Councillor Sonia and then Councillor Borneman.
A great presentation. I fully support the project. Amber's already talked me into having a unit at my house. So how, thanks Gordon. How do people sign up for this? How do the population of the town of Parry Sound come to you? Do we go through somebody here? Is there a portal? Is there a website? How do you get us signed up for your experiment?
So I didn't mention that, but actually one of the other good pieces of news for this project is that we'll be hiring somebody from the Parry Sound area to actually be the coordinator for this project, and they will be reaching out into the community, and also we will communicate with council and ask for any opportunities where we can communicate this out on a bulletin board or things like that. So there will be actually a full-time person for the next 2 years that will be focused on communicating with the public on this, and we'll use a variety of means: media, outreach, direct contact, word of mouth, and basically the design and where we actually look for those people will be contingent on where the actual pumping stations or sewage pipes are that we want to actually monitor, and how we design that will come out through Lisa over the next couple of weeks. But by the January 2nd kind of time frame, we're hoping to have that person in place. And as soon as we have that job description, we'll also pass it over to the town, because there may be some employment boards or things like that that we can take advantage of to try to find somebody in the community to fill that role. And also our partner here that we work with on a number of other projects is the Georgian Bay Biosphere Reserve, and we're in continuous conversation with them about, possibly even sharing the staff person or things like that too. So, yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Borneman.
Well, Councillor Saulnier captured one half. The other half is there a cost to the ratepayer, the homeowner, for installing these gadgets on their washer?
Good question. And the answer right now is no. We will be providing, through the funding that we've received, the actual devices, and we're looking at even being able to try to find a contractor that we can use in the town that can help us with the installation for the homeowner, in case people feel it's a little bit beyond their skill set or capabilities to do that installation. And again, all of this stuff we want to be able to source locally in the community. So we'll be looking at making those announcements as we kind of get the coordinator on board and figure that design out. The number of people that we're looking for will be around 100 that we install, but we're hoping maybe if we can get a little bit of extra funding through some other sources we've approached, is that we could maybe double that to 200.
Okay, very good. Councillor Keith.
So the funding is free if somebody wants this installed. I'd like to know, what about when the project is over? Will the funding be free for the removal of this monitor sort of thing?
Hopefully they won't want to remove it, because it will have proven effective and it'll be reducing microfibers, but yes. So we wouldn't want to leave somebody with a piece of equipment that they didn't want to have in their home. And if they decide they don't need that device or want it, then we would certainly provision to remove that. Yes.
So my second and last follow-up is there some sort of insurance involved there? So should that piece of equipment be placed on the machine, and for whatever things don't go well, what's the insurance policy there?
So this device has been engineered specifically for this purpose, and it has bypass capabilities. So even if it was to get plugged up or things like that, it won't impede the normal operation of the washing machine. So there should be zero impacts on the actual insurance of the homeowner in this project. Yeah.
Yep.
So just for clarification then, in the worst scenario where things don't go well, there's a contact number that they have that they can contact and say help, right?
Yes, that's
For
correct.
free.
Yeah, and we'll have somebody who will be in the community that can immediately go over to their house. And, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'd like to thank you very much for being here and updating us on this really interesting project. And yes, please come back and keep us informed. Thank you. Okay. Our next presentation is from the Parry Sound Seniors Club. Alan Smith and Gerneth Hardy. I have two others mentioned here, but I don't see them. So, Alan, I guess you're it. Okay. Welcome. Good. You're on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and councillors for allowing us to make this presentation. As you know, my name is Alan Smith and I represent the Parry Sound Seniors Club, and we're located at 80 James Street in Parry Sound. We have 3 items we'd like to bring up and ask the town to consider for us. And we'd like to thank the town for the existing grant that we get of $3,500 a year. We're asking for an increase in this grant, which has been static for approximately the last 10 years. Council is aware of the increased costs over this period, and our present operating costs are approximately $40,000 annually, which includes the taxes, snow removal, utilities, office expenses, and custodial services, etc. This is a major concern for the club, and we have made some expensive renovations to help with these costs in the future. I.e., we put a new roof on it a year ago. We replaced the oil with a gas boiler, which has been a tremendous savings to us. Just this summer, we replaced the lighting with all LED fixtures, and the project payback is approximately 3 to 4 years. Hopefully this will cut the electricity bill down considerably. And we replaced all the toilets with low flush units to cut down on the water bills. Yes, we own our own building, and that comes with many other expenses, and we're always proud of what we can give our 225 senior members while keeping our building safe and efficient. Most of the members live in the Parry Sound area and would really miss the club if we could not help keep it up. Being a senior, we feel that some support for senior activity would be greatly appreciated. Seniors are approximately 50% of the Parry Sound population and are probably the most active voters in a municipal election. The second item we would like to address is a possible increase for the parking limits on the street to a 4-hour limit from Mary to Rosetta Streets. Now I noticed that on the agenda 9.5.2 you're going to bring this up later on in the meeting. And item 3, is it possible to have some senior crossing signs put up near the club, i.e. from Mary to Rosetta Streets? And apparently these signs are available. They got a little old lady with a stick walking down the road, and it says senior crossing. That's about it. I thank you for allowing me time to make this presentation, and I'd be happy to try and answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councilor McCann.
Thank you for your presentation this evening. Is it possible that we can ask to include some direction this evening to follow up on the requests and get them on the next agenda or so to discuss an increase for them and the signage as well?
Well, with regard to the increase, that can be brought forward at budget time. That can be discussed then. With regard to the other, it can be directed to go to staff for follow-up with us. Okay, that would be the proper thing to do. So you're moving those? Yeah. Is there a seconder? Councillor Keith? Any discussion on the direction or whatever with regard to taking the one item to the budget and the other one to staff? All in favor? It's carried. Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep. We do have a couple minutes left. If there's any other person in the public that wishes to make a deputation tonight? Nope. Okay. All right. We'll have the reports, and we'll start with Councillor Keith tonight.
Thank you. My report will be very quick. I attended the Parry Sound Industrial Park Board meeting. Basically, it was pretty simple. The accounts were approved. Some people are kind of kicking around, interested in maybe being at the park, but there really wasn't any definite information. And also on the weekend, I had the fun of spending 5 hours working the popcorn machine. I'll probably never eat popcorn again in my lifetime because I'm a person who can't handle smelling the same food forever. So that's a good thing. It'll keep me on a diet, and I enjoyed the experience there on Saturday when I wasn't doing that, as well as Sunday. So I think it was really great, and it was nice to see all the participation out in our community. It was great marketing for Parry Sound, and I hope we can do something like this again. And I thank all the staff and all the work of Rogers and all the people that were involved in getting this together. Thank you.
Councillor Marshall.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I haven't got a huge amount to report since the last meeting, as I was on a beach in Mexico last week. But I did get back in time for the Rogers hometown hockey, as Councillor Keith was just saying. I was absolutely blown away by the turnout of people that came down to the waterfront, from the amount of activities that they had for kids and kids at heart. And Ron McLean and Tara Sloan were just awesome. Watched the whole, I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, so I don't usually watch the Winnipeg Jet games, but I watched that thing from 6:30 right until the conclusion of the game. And the amount of publicity that our town got from it is just, you can't buy that type of publicity. So what a great event. And boy, if we could bring those guys back every year, be worth it. So kudos to hometown hockey. This morning I had a library board meeting. This is Ontario Public Library Week, so if you have a chance, visit your public library in your community. And if you want to keep up with what's happening at the Parry Sound Public Library, the best way to do it is the Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/Parry Sound Public Library. And I just want to remind everyone out there that the voting period runs until October 22nd, 2018, 8 p.m., which is next Monday. And you've got 6 more days to get your vote in. Make sure you vote. Thank you.
Councillor Borneman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. Mine's a little longer. On the 9th, I did attend the all candidates meeting. I bring it up only to say thank you to Sid Steiner and his team for putting that together. Warn you, Madam Clerk, at the end of the evening, he and Gail indicated that they had a stack of unasked questions that people had submitted. And I suggested that they forward them to you, and they can be provided to the incoming council for consideration. On the 10th, the DBA met. We are reviewing the budget. We received the resignation of Mike Pirro. He'd only been with us a brief time, but his efforts are appreciated. Councillor Keith mentioned the Industrial Park Board meeting. I've also attended a couple sessions at the airport. I don't know, a month ago we announced that we had applied for money to open up new building lots. We had 3 or 4 people who were interested in locating there. Since that announcement was made, a number of others have shown up, so we've been spending time with those folks. I have to say that while his name isn't on any papers, I have to believe that our new economic development officer, Vlad's fingerprints are on a number of those expressions of interest. And like everyone else, I want to thank all of those who participated and all of those who were involved in putting on hometown hockey. It was like watching a circus or a rock band that was sort of off the truck, poof, we were ready. The night that they ended, poof, it was on the truck and gone. It was really quite amazing. Some of the metrics that the Rogers people cited were they gave away more T-shirts in the Scotia Bank 1 Million Kids Play booth. The 50-50 draw was almost 3 times what it had been the previous week in Kitchener, which speaks pretty well, I think, to the community's participation. So thank you all for getting out to help and support that. And that's my report tonight, Mr.
Thank you. Councillor McCann.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Well, when you're in the middle of the reports, you lose a little bit of your steam or part of the parade, I suppose. So again, as Councillor Borneman mentioned, the all candidates meeting was a week ago this evening, and it was great to see everyone out. And again, thanks to the organizers, Sid Steiner, for sponsoring the event, and to Jim Hanna as well for moderating the event. It was nice to see everyone out, and it went very, very, very well. Also, the Industrial Park Board was mentioned, and as well, I was in attendance there. Very, very quick meeting, accepting some audited financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2017, and more current papers. I too would like to mention that a big thank you going out to Rogers Hometown Hockey. My wife and I were down there both Saturday and Sunday afternoon. It was an honor to take part in the presentation, and thank you from Rogers Hometown Hockey. Really nice to see the terrific community spirit, and the turnout was just fantastic. It really puts us on the map. And so again, thanks to everyone, our staff, and to the Rogers Hometown Hockey people, and to everyone who came out to participate in this event. Just looking ahead, a reminder that this Thursday evening, Belvedere Heights will be holding its annual general meeting, 6 o'clock in the evening in the Fireside Cafe, Belvedere Heights and Parry Sound. Public is welcome to attend. It's a great opportunity to come out, learn about the direction that Belvedere Heights is heading, and hear about our vision and strategic plan. And again, I would like to remind you to vote, and you have until 8 o'clock this Monday, October 22nd, to do that. And that is my report. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you. Councillor Sonia?
Good evening, everyone, those in attendance, those watching on television. I would like to start with the Robotics Open. It's coming November 10th, and it's Inspire Tech and iDesign Solutions will be hosting the first event of its kind. It's going to be at the BOCC. It'll be there November 10th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And what it is so my wife and I started a Lego Robotic League. We have it in our house every Sunday for 2 hours. So these kids from outside of the community, inside the community, come over. They work on the Lego robot. They learn how to program the robot. They do the coding themselves. Then they go out and they get to do tournaments. So what's happening with this group here is their representatives from Bot Camp will be in attendance. There's going to be the first 24 children that enroll can come. They're going to get to interact with all these different robotic groups. And the whole idea is to form several different teams so we can scrimmage within the confines of the town of Parry Sound. And we actually had the Huntsville Hoyas came over with their robot to our kids' camp once. And this thing was 120 pounds and was just screaming up and down Belvedere Street. You could throw a basketball 8 feet, and it was absolutely impressive. And I felt really bad when it went right in front of that one police officer. So again, that's November 10th. Please do that. Tomorrow, Parry Sound Stingers tryouts U17. We need as many girls under the age of 17 as you want to come out and play basketball. Myself and my wife are the coach. Please come out to the high school, 6 to 7:30. Also, hometown hockey, that was just an absolute treat. I just love Parry Sound. Since we sold the base, I've absolutely been able to do it from a tourist perspective. And there's more than you know. It's so hard when you live and work here full blast during the summer, you can't appreciate what you have. And a lot of those video montages, I got calls from people all over Canada saying, you guys absolutely live in paradise. I think you take it for granted. I think a lot of us do. And then finally, the election. Guys, it's coming up. Please take the time, go to the Town of Parry Sound website. It'll point you in the direction to vote. Vote early, vote often. That's my report.
Vote early, vote often. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Horn.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Rogers Hometown Hockey. It's already been stated numerous times. For me, it was just simply Parry Sound proud. What a great community effort, and thank you to everyone who was involved. Last night I attended Chamber of Commerce monthly board meeting, and just wanted to say I hope everyone gets out and votes if you have not done already. It's been mentioned. I'd like to thank all the candidates that have put their names forward for the election. Whether it's in the mayor's seat, in the councillor seat, or the school board, please everyone come out and vote. People have sacrificed much so we can do this, so please vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council staff and public, October 4th had an MOU meeting at Queen's Park with a number of ministers. October 10th, Councillor Keith and I attended Parry Sound Public School to meet with the students of a couple of grade 5 classes as part of Local Government Week. We had a great time with the students asking a lot of questions. Not necessarily all of them had to do with council, but and how it works, but you know, they found out that I didn't have a limo and a driver and that sort of thing, and it's not in the budget. There were a number of interesting questions, but it was a lot of fun, and they at least they asked questions, which is really, really good. And with regard to that too, tomorrow is the mock council meeting here at 1 o'clock, in which they have selected a council slate, and they'll be here for the meeting. So it's pretty special. October 13th, as was mentioned, was Rogers Hometown Hockey here in Parry Sound. I'd like to thank Rogers Hometown Hockey team, Ron McLean, Tara Sloan. I have to thank April and Brad and our town staff, the many volunteers that came out to support this event. It was absolutely amazing. The different service clubs, parents of the kids, some counselors. Just the whole community came together and supported this event, which was absolutely amazing. I heard that the hometown hockey group were really pleased with the support that they received from the volunteers and our staff. And I'd also like to extend a thank you to the Andersons for the use of their property, because that really tied everything together and gave the space down on the waterfront that was needed for an event like this. So great work, Parry Sound. Job well done. And we had a major event with national coverage and came through. Very, as Councillor Hearn said, Parry Sound proud. So, as a thank you for being in our community and in the community, Rogers, might get that up, gave the town of Parry Sound this framed sweater to commemorate the event. Got it? Okay. To commemorate the event so it can be hung in the town office. So I think this is something very special that we can be proud of, that we knew we came through, and they were extremely pleased that we did. Got it? Did you want to get a picture of this? Maybe we'll come down. How about we come down and council can... Yeah, can...
Do you want me to carry?
You got it?
Down.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And then all of council can be in the picture with it.
I'm good.
They hung up somewhere in the office, somewhere where I think people can see it. Okay. So those are all the reports. We don't have it. There was no closed session, so there's no ratifications from closed. So we'll begin with the. Okay, so the first one that was brought forward was item 9.2.3, and it's moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Marshall. The consent application B31/2018 PS Halverson be supported. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. So the next item is 10.4.1, moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Horn. The bylaw number 2018-6870 being a bylaw to appoint Clayton Harris as the Chief Administrative Officer / Deputy Clerk and alternate head under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act for the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound, and to amend bylaw 2013-6244 and 2015-6568, and to repeal bylaw 1998-4000 be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Keith, seconded by Councillor Horn, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councillor McCann?
Thank you. I thought this would be a great opportunity for Mr. Harris to introduce himself and to let us know what some of his big plans are.
Thank you, Councillor. First of all, for me, it's a privilege to work for the town of Parry Sound. I'm sure as many or most of you know by now that I grew up in Parry Sound, and to return home and have this kind of a position is very gratifying. I'm looking forward over the next number of years of working with council, the staff, and the community to realize council's vision and make Parry Sound proud, as we talked about with hometown hockey. And I think there's some big opportunities ahead, and looking forward to working with council and staff to realize on those opportunities. So thank you very much, and it's a real pleasure.
Good, thank you. Anything further? All in favor? And that's carried. So, welcome to the corporation of the town of Parry Sound. Back to the beginning. Yeah. Moved by Councillor McCann, seconded by Councillor Borneman, that the Council of the Town of Parry Sound authorized the PRU being decommissioned in 2018 be donated to the Kearney Fire Department. Discussion? Councillor McCann.
Just a quick question for Mr. Thompson. How is it decided where these vehicles sort of end up?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The area municipalities are aware that when we dispose of these, we like to be able to pass them along to municipalities if they so desire. So it's generally just whoever makes a request and puts it forward. Not all times are all vehicles requested to be passed along when they're decommissioned. Some of them we dispose of in other ways, but it's up to the municipalities to make a request.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Keith?
Yes, what I'm wondering about is, has there ever been in any municipality when these vehicles are decommissioned and donated to another township, where there's some form of a charitable donation? Yeah, naturally, when there's a variety of communities involved, that would have to be, of course, divvied up. But has that ever been something that has been examined, sir?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, that hasn't been. We haven't tried to do anything in that fashion. I'm not sure exactly what the benefit would be. Now that you bring it up, though, it is something that I can pursue with the Chief Financial Officer, see if there is some benefit for the organization to be doing something of that nature.
I would appreciate that, because I think in the bottom line is that that money all comes from the taxpayer in one shape or form. If there's any way that all of us as municipalities could get some benefit back when vehicles are decommissioned, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Saunier, second by Councillor Keith, that upon the recommendation of the EMS Advisory Committee, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound directs staff to enter into negotiations in January of 2019 with the West Parry Sound Health Center for a 4-year extension to the land ambulance contract that will address the value-added aspects of the service being leveraging of paramedics' downtime, community paramedicine initiatives, and limiting non-urgent patient transportation, and further that staff report back to council on the progress of negotiations by the beginning of February 2019 with a recommendation on proceeding with contracted services or preparing to take the land ambulance service in-house for direct delivery. Discussion. Councillor Keith?
I would just like some clarification why we're in this situation now, why this is being proposed. Mr. Thompson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the contract for, the town of Parry Sound is responsible for delivery of land ambulance services throughout the district of Parry Sound. That's legislated to us by the province. We choose to have done that since the time it was downloaded to the town through a contracting process. When land ambulance services were initially downloaded to municipalities, there were many municipalities or districts or counties or DSABs who chose to use the contracting method. Now there are very few left in the province of Ontario. Many of the services have taken the delivery in-house. So by in-house, that means that a county would directly deliver and employ the paramedics themselves. There might be 5 services, maybe 8 across the province who still contract out to a third party to deliver the services. So our contract with West Parry Sound Health Centre was to expire at the end of 2019. Since the inception of Town of Parry Sound delivering the service, the West Parry Sound Health Centre has held the contract for delivering the service. If that was going to change away from the West Parry Sound Health Centre, an RFP process has to be started far ahead of time because we have to provide the West Parry Sound Health Centre at least 7 months notice. So counting backwards from the end of 2019, that would be the beginning of June of 2019 that they would have to be provided notice. So we start the process of looking at RFP well in advance. So that was started in the summer of 2018, a few months ago. We contracted a consultant to assist with that process, people who have generally done things like this before. Through the entire process of the RFP preparation and setting it out, it was determined that there were very few contractors left willing to bid on the services that we were trying to get them to bid upon. In the end, it came down to 2 parties that were interested, one being the West Parry Sound Health Centre, another being a private entity called Medivie. Medivie currently is a profit organization, and it currently has 1 service contract in Southern Ontario. They previously had Muskoka, but Muskoka took the process in-house about 2 years ago. We did explore other contract providers, other hospitals in the area who have experience with it, as well as we considered neighboring services. None of those paths or avenues worked out. So in the end, we had 2 interested parties. We delivered the RFP to those 2 interested parties, being West Parry Sound Health Centre, as well as Medivie. And we gave them 2 weeks to review the RFP, and then we had our initial bidders meeting. At the initial bidders meeting, numerous questions were asked, especially by Medivie, as West Parry Sound Health Centre pretty well knows everything there is to know about the service already. And after that, we gave the parties 1 more week to decide and confirm, are you going to bid or not bid? And we did that because we only wanted to go through this process if we were going to have more than 1 bidder. At the end of that week, Medivie got back to us and said, we're not prepared to bid. And when we asked them why, the main reason was that financial, as a for-profit organization, they were extremely confident that they were not going to be able to compete with the West Parry Sound Health Centre on a financial bid. And we were pretty clear that the financial aspects of it were very important to us in the review process. So at that point, we have 1 bidder left, West Parry Sound Health Center, who's our current contract provider. The other option is to take the service in-house, as other areas have done. Therefore, what we're proposing is that we would like to negotiate with the West Parry Sound Health Center and tackle some of the issues that we have. They've been a very good service provider for almost 20 years now. We've been happy with their service. As with all relationships, there are bumps in the road, and through the negotiations, we'd like to try to iron out a couple of those bumps in the road, and if we are, then I think we can come back with a contract that will serve the town of Parry Sound as well as the district of Parry Sound very well leading into the future. If we're unable to iron out some of those bumps in the road, then it will still provide us with enough time to consider taking the service in-house if we so want.
Thank you.
Okay. Any, Councillor Borneman?
The entities that have taken service in-house, Mr. Thompson, are they generally district governments or single-tier municipalities such as the town of Parry Sound?
Through your mayor, and that's an excellent question. Throughout the province, there are only 2 single-tier municipalities who actually deliver the service for an area that's broader than their own municipality. By that I mean the city of Sudbury delivers the service to themselves, but only themselves. Other than that, there's the town of Parry Sound and the city of Thunder Bay that provide the service as a lower tier municipality to a broader geographic area. Other than that, they are all districts, counties, or DSABs that provide the service. So to answer your question, all those organizations that have taken it in-house, almost virtually all of them, are larger entities than a lower tier municipality.
Okay. Anything further? No? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keith and second by Councillor Horn that Council accepts the quotation from Fowler Construction to supply, deliver, blend, and stack approximately 300 tons of winter sand per delivery in the amount of $17.52 per ton for a total amount of $5,256, including tax, for the 2018-2019 year. This quotation being the only one received. Discussion. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman and second by Councillor Marshall. The Council accepts the quotation from Fowler Construction for approximately 60 tons of granular A gravel per delivery in the amount of $15.26 per ton, for a total amount of $915.60, including tax, for the 2018-2019 year, this quotation being the only one received. Discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Item 932, moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Keith, that Council accepts the tender from Adams Brothers for snow removal on town streets during the 2018 fall and winter season and 2019 winter and spring season, including traffic control and labor costs to clear around infrastructure including tree pits and hydrants as follows. Tandem dump truck, $95.99 per hour. Wheeled loader, $111.81 per hour, and a blower and control unit, $111.81 per hour. Any discussion? Councillor Borneman?
Just that they were the lowest bidder in each of those categories, so there is no confusion.
Yep. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. I have a mover and seconder for the direction, please. Councillor Keith, Councillor McCann. The council directs staff to secure the services of CIMA Engineering to assess 5 level train crossings in Parry Sound for the purpose of train whistle cessation as required by Transport Canada, the Railway Safety Act, grade crossing regulations, and grade crossing standards, and that staff bring back a report to council with the results/findings from the engineering assessment and recommendations. Discussion. Councillor Keith.
Yes, thank you. This question would be Mr. Pengra. Thank you. I looked at this information that is presented here, and I just want to clarify one matter that I highlighted. I know we're talking about train whistles, but in the examination of all that's going to occur here with the engineering to assess the 5-level train crossings, I would like to know, would that also include because I notice we have in here a section talking about the noise when sometimes the trains go around the curve, for example, and it's really high and squealy. Does that take into account? Because I noticed a section here where it talked about noise. I wanted to be clear.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that it is entirely limited to the train whistle itself.
So in that RFP, that's not they don't do, like I understood that Canada Transport does also examine that kind of squealing noise that I'm talking about. And so you're saying that would not even come into play when they're looking at this engineering assessment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. During the project kickoff meeting, should council choose to move forward with this is something we could discuss with the contractor.
I think we should discuss it with the contractor because I think it's all part, we hear the train whistle and we know that the squealing is part of the issue.
Councillor Borneman, and Mr. Brown.
Well, I concur with Councillor Keith that the whistle is a short toot. The grinding goes on for the duration of the length of the train, but back to an assessment of the crossings, Mr. Penger, I think one of the first questions that needs to be asked in that initial meeting is what impact this will have on the town's liability insurance and what impact previous accidents and fatalities at those sites might have on our ability to achieve this outcome, because I have to think that, you know, those have huge impact on this, and there's no point in going further. You know, I don't like the whistle any better than anybody else, and I live a few doors away from it, but there's no point in going further if our likelihood of success is not very high.
Mr. Brown.
Your Worship, if I could clarify what Councillor Keith was mentioning earlier, this has absolutely nothing to do with the squealing of the rail lines. There is no relationship between this reporting and this plan and the train whistles. It's a completely different topic. We can make application to CN and CP through correspondence requesting that there would be more grease on the rails, more inspection done on the rail lines itself. But this is a completely different topic compared to what we're dealing with here. I just wanted to clarify that, make sure everybody understood around the table.
Mr. Brown, it was my understanding too that this had just to do with the whistles, this particular study. That's right. The other is a function of the train and the track, which, correct?
Your Worship, correct. And yeah. I'd be happy to follow up with CNCP to advise them that this is an ongoing issue as well, and that they need to work harder at making the rail lines quieter, shall we say. It's going to be difficult because there's a lot of curves on those rail lines. Yeah. And the lines are getting bigger, longer.
Maybe after we deal with this direction, we can have someone make direction on the other, and that way a letter can be written. Okay? So we're dealing with the train whistles in this particular direction. Any further discussion on it? All in favor of them? That's carried. Okay. Councillor Keith, you.
Well, I move that we have a direction that Mr. Brown speaks to CN and CPR regarding the squealing, the grinding of the trains on the tracks, and if that and include Canada Transport in that discussion, or at least copy them.
Seconder, Councillor Borneman. Any discussion on that direction? Councillor Borneman.
Council will recall a number of years ago, we had a rail safety committee for some time, and one of the drivers of that was Mr. Bossart, and he had placed cameras and sound detection equipment on the track, and at that point, his information was that clearly they were exceeding the decibel level that's acceptable. So I think that's a point of a start point in that conversation, that we ask for that type of equipment to be utilized, and for them to make the necessary adjustments to get themselves within the confines of the current legislation.
Okay, Councillor Keith.
I am going to concur with Councillor Borneman, because late this summer I had occasion to speak to somebody in Ottawa who specializes in noise and respect to the trains, and assured me quite well that there is a means of working with Canada Transport in respect to the railroads and having the decrease in that noise. So I think we should pursue it, because it is a possibility. It can be done. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further with that direction? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried as well. Okay. May I have a mover and seconder for the next? Councillor Borneman, Councillor Horn. The direction is that the manager of building and planning services be directed to prepare a report advising on the potential zoning bylaw impacts regarding cannabis. Any discussion on this? Councillor Horn.
It was quite interesting today. The City of Markham passed 2 bylaws today that address this issue. They passed a bylaw stating that they were not in favor of a bricks and mortar cannabis permit in the City of Markham, and they also passed a bylaw of no smoking in public places, including sidewalks in the City of Markham. So that was quite interesting, and they did it at the last hour, because midnight tonight obviously is the beginning of the cannabis legislative requirements. Mm-hmm. So it is a very interesting topic. It has moved from the federal government to the provincial government, and now downloaded to municipalities to make this decision. So good luck to the new council.
Oh, did they? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, this is certainly for tonight, for staff follow-up to start to look at this particular issue and how we might deal with a variety of different things. You know, this is evolving as it goes on, and you know, there's still more to come from the provincial government. So all I can suggest is that Mr. LG is going to have a lot of work to do over the next couple of weeks. Councillor McCann.
Thank you. I've been reading up on some of this, and as you say, Mr. Mayor, it is an evolving thing. Where do we, like, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, someone's someone's having a joint on the main street. What are the rules? What do we know that people can do or can't do at this point? Where do things stand?
Chief?
So, first of all, enforcement of cannabis will be a police issue. So that's the first thing to note. Second would be that sidewalks are governed underneath the Highway Traffic Act. So we don't have authority to ban smoking on sidewalks, cigarette smoking, and we will have no more authority with cannabis unless the province decides somewhere down the road to give us more authority. But as it currently stands, we will not have that authority. Where we will have some authority would be where we already control cigarette smoking. So down the road, I would suggest it'll come back when Taylor comes back with some other thoughts, not only with regards to the zoning bylaw, but with regards to what other bylaws we have that may be able to be utilized to control the consumption of cannabis. So most definitely our current smoking bylaw would be one, and whether it needs to be expanded or contracted or changed or massaged or whatever, we will be dealing with that with the new council, I would have to imagine. But at this point, if at 12:01 tonight someone lights up on the sidewalk of the main street, they're allowed to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. At the moment, no.
So the next item, that's what I was trying to talk to you about. So Doug thought he would provide a direction to bring forward, and then he changed his mind. I forgot to remove it. So it hasn't been renewed. If you want to develop something along this line, then you can still do that.
Okay. So item 952 had to do with extension of parking limits for the Parry Sound seniors at 80 James Street. And I understand, Councillor McCann, as you were the spokesperson for this particular one, that there was going to be some direction or something, but there's nothing here tonight. So either we remove it or you come up with some direction.
I think I talked to Chief Thompson about this a few days ago, and I understand that staff is looking at reassessing parking limits in that area, and maybe Mr. Thompson, you could speak more to that. Perhaps maybe the idea of moving forward with this at this point is futile if indeed the town is going to reassess and extend the parking limits down in that area.
Chief?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. At the end of every tourist season, we've been assessing the parking as it operates in the town. This is mainly since we took out the meters. And we've been doing that in conjunction with the DBA and other organizations. This year, to the bylaw enforcement department, we did receive one letter from a business located in the area that we're talking about, below Mary Street on James, who also had some concerns about the time limit parkings. And when the bylaw enforcement officer and myself, Alice and myself, took a look at that letter, we thought there might be a little bit of merit there. And so we'd already decided actually that we would be discussing this with the DBA, as well as other issues that have come up with parking throughout the summertime, to see if there are some opportunities to improve the parking bylaw. And we're planning on bringing that back to council, or bringing it forward to council sometime in the new year anyways. So it is dealing with this subject, and I want to get input from the stakeholders in that particular area, as well as other areas through town, and as well as deal with other issues, so we can take care of it all at once as a package.
Okay, that sounds good. So
Perfect.
do we need, so mover and seconder withdraw 952?
Yeah. So I would move to
McCann and Marshall. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Okay. Yep. Item 10.11, moved by Councillor Marshall, second by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw number 2018-6869, being a bylaw to authorize certain new capital works of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound, the municipality, to authorize the submission of an application to Ontario Infrastructure Lands Corporation, OILC, for financing such capital works, to authorize temporary borrowing for OILC, to meet expenditures in connection with such works, and to authorize long-term borrowing for such works through the issue of debentures to OILC, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? It's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor Marshall. The bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councillor Keith?
Maybe Ms. Chen can just explain what we're doing here for the public, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Every year when we have capital budget, financing sources for capital budgets will decide based on what the assets are related and if we have reserves to cover that. And once the project is finished, we capitalize the project and also finalize the funding sources so that it aligns with the budget and also aligns with the actual spending. So these two projects, William Street has been completed last year and Emily Street is wrapping up. We are in the process of looking at funding sources and to cope with and to handle the unfunded portion. So the actual, based on the actual spending for the William Street, we are short of 1.6 million. And for the Emily Street project, we expect about $2.6 million to be funded. So Infrastructure Ontario is a Crown agency that provides financing sources especially for municipalities, and the borrowing rate is quite competitive. We have been working with Infrastructure Ontario in the past few years, and the application process is quite straightforward, and they are quite helpful in terms of getting the funding. So again, in the borrowing.
Okay, anything else? All in favor then? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman, seconded by Councillor Marshall, that bylaw number 2018-6871, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Councillor Marshall, seconded by Councillor Borneman, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. All in favor? That's carried. Now, prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next regular meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled to take place at 52 Seguin Street in the council chambers located on the top floor. Public access to the building is off Gibson Street. The next regular meeting of council is Tuesday, November 6, 2018. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. Regular and special meetings are now live streamed. Please check news and public notices on our website at www.parrysound.ca for instructions to watch live or to see earlier council meetings. Agendas, changes to the council meeting schedule, and notices of special council meetings will be posted on the town's website at www.parrysound.ca under news and public notices prior to a council meeting. The public is available to view an electronic copy of the complete agenda with council attachments on the town's website. Just search council calendar and the date of the meeting. Should you wish to receive the combined agenda via email, you may make that request on our website or contact the clerk at the municipal office. Minutes of regular council meetings will be posted within 2 days after the council meeting on the town's website and on the bulletin board located in the municipal office entrance. Your TV will continue to air the regular Parry Sound Council meetings on Saturday at 9 a.m. following a regular council meeting. For Cogeco listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. Please remember that voters are responsible for checking the voters list to ensure they are on it and that their information is correct. Eligible voters can check the list in the public library, Parry Sound Fire Hall, or may call the office at 705-746-2101 between 8:30 and 4:30 Monday to Friday. And thank you everyone and have a great night.